All right, guys, this one's a treat. Longtime friend of mine. We were firefighters together. He's a foundation training instructor. Has a heck of a story of a back injury. So I'm going to introduce you officially to Daniel Wade. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background as far as career goes and as an athlete?
I've been a firefighter for, I don't know, going on 18 years now total. Played sports in high school. I started MMA and jiu-jitsu in high school. I was 16 years old when I had my first fight. And with some guys that I met in my neighborhood that were much older than I was. Well, I say much older, they were 21, 22 years old. And I rode bulls in rodeo. My brother was in the rodeo circuit. So he got me into riding bulls for a couple of years. So yeah, it was pretty eventful for me, for what I did.
But real quick, what got you into MMA? Because there's a story there. I want you to share that story because I think it's almost like a movie.
I got almost end of middle school. Is that the one in middle school?
Yeah, you don't have to go super detailed, but give them the
end
background.
of middle school, I almost got beat up. The beginning of high school, I almost got beat up. Like literally the last day of middle school and the first day of high school, I almost got worked for no reason at all. For a reason, just literally saying hi to someone. I went home. I was a little butthurt by it. Several weeks later, we were playing mud football in the park across the street from my house, and a guy shows up. And he's like, "Hey, can we play?" We thought he was a weirdo because he was 22 years old at the time, so he was older, and started tackling us, but arm barring us, putting us in chokes, doing double legs, like basic wrestling stuff, but with submissions. And he showed me what it was. I called him a liar because I said they just all wear spandex, so it's like WWF. Like, what, Ken Shamrock? He just wears spandex. It's all fake. It's pay-per-view. But he showed me his fights, and I trained with him on the corner of my yard for months, and then he brought me in with a group of older guys, man, and they brought me in like I was their own son. It was really cool.
Well, the reason I wanted you to share that is because the story, and you did something about it, you know? I mean, there's a little bit of luck and timing in meeting him, but the little dog's going after
You can put him in.
squirrel. But, you know, there's a little bit of a story behind it, and so I think it's really cool. So anyways, you started MMA, you were fighting. As I remember in high school, you were going and fighting.
Yeah, I was fighting on the weekends, man. I was fighting at FFA bars, strip clubs, bars, country bars.
When your parents were signing the waivers.
No, not really. They didn't really know what I was doing. They knew I was doing some type of fighting, but they didn't really know what it was until they showed up to one of my fights, and my mom walked out before it started when she realized what I did.
So let's fast forward. Firefighting.
Yeah.
You're a firefighter. You're training for a fight. Give us a little bit of a rundown on
the injury.
Yeah.
So I had a back injury that I actually had surgery for. I was training for a fight. Shot a double leg, missed. Shot it. You know, just a second shot and slipped on some sweat and felt my back kind of pop. Nothing significant. Continued to train. Next day it was tight. I was still able to get up out of bed and move around. Continued to train for that fight for the rest of the week up to the night of the fight. The next morning after the fight, which I lost that fight, which was like my last fight ever. Like I was done. I was an old man. I was like 24, 25. I couldn't get out of bed that next morning. And went to the hospital. Obviously, they wanted to give pain relievers and muscle relaxants.
Where's your mind at though right now? You can't get out of bed. You're in the hospital.
Yeah.
You think something was wrong. Like
I knew I herniated something, so I felt. So I thought right at the time. I was like, I herniated my back. I'm done. My career's done. I'm probably gonna have to get surgery. I was lost, right? I didn't know what to do. I had at the time no prior education. You know, it was high school to being a fireman, and that's what I had. So yeah, it was scary for me, man. It nerve-wracking to say the least. So, but time goes by, I see a doctor. I do some epidurals in the back that he tries to give me to kind of block the pain, which doesn't work. I finally get to a point where I can't tie my own shoes, I can't get up out of a chair, I can't sit in a car or a fire engine or a rescue because I couldn't stand up. So I elected myself for surgery. I told him I wanted surgery. This is why I wanted surgery. I've been dealing with it for about a year. And I had what we call a micro discectomy. And that was just like they shaved a piece of the herniated disc off that was compressing against the nerve, creating the sciatic pain that I was having. So I thought, and I say that because it's going to lead into further. I did notice though, prior to the surgery, when I went to the gym to work out, I would hang and do pull-ups. I wouldn't do anything squatting or anything lower back-wise because I was afraid to. But doing pull-ups, doing any type of presses, overhead presses, by the end of that session, I was walking around, I was fine, no pain, and completely out of pain. So
what do you think?
I thought at that time my theory was at that time was I'm just getting fresh blood to the area and it's helping a little bit with just moving it around and taking some swelling away.
Looking at it now.
Looking at it now, I think it was a lot of my psoas, QL, hip flexors, glute medius that was seized up really bad over continuous poor mechanics.
So
Really.
you're getting relief in the gym.
Yeah.
Well, you go through a surgery.
I still go through a surgery because I don't know any better. And surgeons, nothing against them because they do phenomenal work for what they do. Chiros do phenomenal, and I did see a chiro too. But they just wanted to adjust. They never got to a root of a problem. So I just figured surgery was the way to go. I got the surgery and I was bedridden right after that for 2 weeks. So they said, hey, 5 days. Actually, they said 2 days you'll be up and walking around. 5 days you'll be moving pretty good, but don't overdo it. And 5 days showed up, 10 days showed up, 20 days showed up, 30 days showed up, and I couldn't even hardly get out of bed. I had to use a walker to get around. I was bent over like a question mark everywhere I went. I went back to my surgeon and they were worried, obviously, as they should have been, and they wanted to go back in and fix things. They did say, which later in the future I kind of going through all the foundation training and like studying anatomy and really getting into mechanics, they did say when we were in there, we really didn't see much. So when they were in there, we're doing the microscopic surgery, they didn't really see as much as they thought they saw in the MRI. And I was sedated coming out of surgery, and I heard that. And it didn't really mean anything to me at the time, but now it means a lot to me. Misdiagnosis is what I can't tell you the statistic or the number, but it's pretty high of the unnecessary surgeries that people go through. And I just kind of lost a little bit of a train of thought for that, dude.
So with that injury, and for anybody dealing with that out there, what advice would you give them? You know, having been there, like the emotional, the mindset.
Don't assume, man. The mindset is it's not over, right? The surgery is needed for some, but it's a fraction of what gets it. Find other routes. I would say there are other routes, and this right now proves it. There are different avenues to take, and there are a multitude of exercises and movement classes and understanding and like foundation training and that will help alleviate the true cause of the problem. Deep tissue massage work, sports chiropractic work, where they really dive, and we talked about this a lot, especially recently, because I did re-injure myself showing a front squat to somebody. Same symptoms, but I got instant relief by laying on a kettlebell, by smashing my psoas and my QL. So I bought a So Right, as you told me a bunch.
Love them.
Get a So Right, get a So Right. So I bought a So Right. and I started working on my psoas and my QL, and immediately I got relief. I was able to stand back up. I was out of pain. When it started to tighten up again, I hit the psoas and the QL again, and then I Googled psoas. You know, I wanted to see where it connected to. And when you, for people who are not in the field of anatomy, which there's a lot, look at that stuff. Look at your psoas. Look at your QL. Look at your hip flexors, your SI, like all that area, and between here and here, how it connects to sciatic pain and creates pressure on that nerve.
Yeah.
And if you pull a diagram up, and I did this when I downloaded the anatomy app, the 3D medical anatomy app, and you can put layers on, you'll see that if this is, my finger is the sciatic nerve, it literally like does this between your piriformis, your glutes, all your abductors. I mean, there's not a lot of space.
Right.
And I think that was my problem. I think a lot of external rotation,
Jiu-jitsu.
you know, jiu-jitsu, life in general, when you sit like this, you sit like this. Jiu-jitsu, you're like this, you drive like this, really cramping it up and putting it under bad stress for many years. Like, this isn't an injury that you would, I just did it right now. This just occurred. No, it started to occur and it finally gave away.
Yeah, and it's so common, and I mean, I'd love for you to speak to this because I get the questions all the time about jiu-jitsu, about wrestling, about what should I be doing, and I always talk about is that I think so often we blame the sport, we blame the moment, and we don't realize that was just the catalyst that pushed it over the edge.
Right.
It was kind of building up before that. It wasn't jiu-jitsu.
Oh, no.
It was a body that was sitting at a desk for 8 hours, and then you showed up and you did a kind of a mass, you know, a men's health warm-up, if you will. A warm-up for everybody, not specific to your body, or to undo the cause of sitting all day. Anything you can add to that?
It's not being sedentary, not sitting, right? So we stand up. Hello. It's not sitting all the time. It's being active. It's being mobile. Everybody talks about flexibility for the longest time, up until the recent year or two, and now you hear mobility, and now you hear stability, and I think you got to have all three of those. Because I think without one leads to another, a separate injury. So yeah, just staying active, understanding your body, researching, and if a doctor ever gives you need surgery, well, that's what they get paid to do, right? And not taken away from them, but surgeons want to do surgery. Yeah, question it, see what else, what might it be? How did I do it? Oh, I did it by rotating. You know, what does my MRI say? What in that rotation of muscles did I use, you know, to possibly maybe tweak, and now it's guarding. So, yeah.
And then I really want to touch on mindset, and I really, because I called him a year and a half ago when I was locked up and I just couldn't figure it out. But what I really want to go into for a moment is, like, you know, mentally, emotionally, how'd you feel when, you know, you went from performing and grappling and firefighting to, boom, you're halted, and as you said, you're moving around like an old man?
Oh yeah, that's awesome, because I had a stage of depression. They called it athlete depression. And so you're active your entire life. Like, ever since I was 5, I was in soccer. Throughout high school soccer, throughout baseball, jiu-jitsu, MMA, bull ride. I was always, you know, you're always active, right? And then boom, nothing. It hurt. I was scared. That was the biggest thing I could say. I was scared. I wasn't going to be able to work again. And then, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And I went into a depressive state, which I saw a doctor for, because I didn't know why. Especially after I was able to start walking around and move around, I was still just depressed. And I explained to him my issue, what was going on, and he said that's common with athletes, not saying I'm a pro athlete of any sort, but that have been active their entire life, and that was taken away in an instant. So yeah, but having a mindset, your mindset has to be strong for it, and know that whether you do foundation or if you go into yoga or if you go into whatever entity you go into, that it might not be a week, it might not be 2 weeks, it might not even be 6 months, it might be 8 months, it might be a year. And if you can see the stories online of people saying, you'll have some guys like 3 weeks, it's back to normal after doing XYZ workout or movements.
Program now.
Right, do this program, this is great. But then you'll see other guys like, hey, 7 months, I'm pain free. Stick with that program, stick with no, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and always question everything someone tells you about yourself. And learn, study, know the body. If you get hurt, find out why you're hurt. Don't just assume that this person is always right. Ask multitudes of people. So,
all right.
Yeah, that's really it, man.
Good stuff. So, what's the difference in how you train now versus 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago? What's changed?
A lot. So I met you, and that's when I still had some back issues. I was post-surgery, I was moving around. I locked up one day and you told me to get under a barbell. Getting under a barbell with a low bar back squat and a deadlift. And I was like, you're crazy, dude. You're so crazy. Like, you want me to die? Like, I'll hurt my back again. My doctor said I was done. If I do any type of movement, it's gonna blow back out and I'll be over. And then he showed me all the paperwork. So we started on Mark Rippetoe's linear progression program.
Very
solid,
gradual.
Yeah.
Very light, very methodical.
Yeah.
Time. I remember him being like, "What? This is all I'm supposed to lift?"
Yeah.
And it
like
was.
25 minutes in the gym, and you're like, "Get out!" Because you had 3 lifts, and I started with the bar for the workout, so I did 5 by 5, 3 sets of 5 for a squat, 3 sets of 5 for a deadlift, and 3 sets of 5 for a press. And then it had AB workout, if anybody knows that. If you don't know, it's a great starter strength workout if you're trying to get on one. But every workout you add weight. It's a linear progression, and by a year and a half, I was squatting 365 for reps, pulling 425 or 435 for reps, and overhead pressing 220, and I was a stupid strong. And no problem with pain.
No pain.
At all, none. And that time also started integrating foundation training because it was still at its infancy stage, and he was kind of pushing me to go after it, and I was like...
So hold up though, we're gonna get to FT in a second. What I really want to touch on, you guys, hold on, is the injury, the no pain part. We didn't know FT at the time. We're I don't even remember how old we were then.
28, yeah.
28, something like that. But it was the going from tripping and like moving and somebody's gonna take a muscle relaxer to a year later, because he was dedicated to the practice, he was being consistent. When he says pulling 435, he was deadlifting, pulling from the ground to standing 425 pounds, pain-free. But that didn't happen overnight. That took time, dedication, and being okay with the process. And then slowly we brought foundation training in.
Right.
And that was a whole different... So let's talk about that for a moment.
Well,
let's dive into that.
Well, foundation training and the hinge is an unloaded deadlift or a low bar back squat. So you're basically doing, that's a natural body movement, and I had to rewire my body how to hinge under a load. And then when the foundation and which integrates a ton more other than just the hinge, plays a part, it just accelerated my mind and body connection to move properly, and lift, even continue to actually protect me even further in my lifts that I was doing. Which my lifts became, and back to the original question, my lifts went from chasing numbers, because I wanted to squat, what did I want to squat, 400, 405, I wanted to pull.
We were chasing
I was trying to become 200 pounds, which
I don't know where he got that from.
199. Oh, a shirt. There's a shirt that he had from 70sbig.com. Justin Last Check, right?
Dude's a legend.
Yeah, Justin Last Check.
We're going to try to get him, by the way.
He had a shirt that said, adult male with a greater than sign, 200 pounds. And I'm like, I want that shirt. I want to be an adult male. Ugh. So I would remember I'd eat like a hamburger, and I'd get another one, and you'd be like, eat the hamburger, do you want to be on 200 pounds? And I was like,
Meanwhile, I'm not 200 pounds.
Yeah.
I can't get there.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, it was great. He's out of pain. That was the goal.
Yeah.
You know, we had our training mindsets were different.
Yeah.
But the site, I mean, what was awesome was we learned a lot along the way. I'd say the message was great. Last Check was inspiring. He's still inspiring. You can look him up, Justin Last Check. He went on to go into the military and became a special operations guy. And it was crazy because remember, we were like, where did he go?
Yeah.
And then one day, you know, we read his story. He had a pretty significant injury in combat, and now he's, you know, got a whole new challenge that he's pushed into. And so I'm saying that because his story is very inspiring, and I hope we get to chat with him at some point. But I don't want to derail us too hard. So, what did you feel was missing in training?
So I didn't really feel nothing was missing at the time because I didn't know any better. I literally just started learning how to truly properly lift when I re-linked back up with you here in Orlando. You're welcome. No, it's true though. He really was the only one that took time to actually teach instead of like some of these clown trainers out there that put you in bad positions. After that, I remember I did 365 on a squat in Sarasota for reps, and I remember racking it going, what am I doing? I am going to re-injure myself. My body, I'm sitting here sweating in 70-degree house because my body's just too big at the time, which I did not make 200 pounds. I made 199. It's documented, and it makes me so mad. I was never an adult male. So I was like, what am I doing? Like, this isn't conducive to my lifestyle, what I want to do. I started learning surfing with him, and I was just tired trying to paddle because I felt really big. For me, 199 was on my frame is humongous for me. Some guys just walk around that and that's tiny for them, but for me it was big, and it really took a lot out of me. I could move stuff around, but I would tire out real quick. And I'd say the conditioning would be it, just being able to live my life and the longevity. Like when I started to really dive into it and learning about the longevity of life, spinal stenosis and joints and just long-term effects of it, which not always is bad because some spinal loading is obviously good. That's a whole nother topic, obviously. But what I wanted out of life, the rock climbing, the surfing, the movement, the mobility, I was not going to get continuing my strength. So it slowly turned over to, well, what do I do now? So I kind of went back to like a little lightweight bodybuilding type deal. I stopped eating so much, and then I was introduced to kettlebells. And it's been kettlebells 95% of the way ever since I started learning them. I go to a coach now. I'm going to get my certification in Strong First. I'm like, kettlebells is everything that I could ever want. And you know, you showed me and you showed me, you know, you guys showed me that path as well, was when the kettlebell became really popular to me.
I'd say, you know, even now when I come over here and train with him, he coaches me on stuff. I trust him. And every good coach has a coach they trust. And so just like he goes to somebody, when you get around the right people that know what they're looking for, they know what they're looking at. And I look at because he's in the strength program with us, him and Evan. And so when you look at those things, he knows the mechanics, he knows what he's looking for, but there's details in everything. So when you're working with a client, how do you like to integrate, or what do you base things on with goals and the process?
Well, you got to look at age. What are their age that you're working with? So if you're working with an elderly person, getting up out of a chair, getting off a toilet, the ability to create balance is huge. You're looking at an athlete, or you're looking at a firefighter. It really depends. Like, you got to see what that person does in life. If you're in college and you're training for the combine to go pro in the NFL, completely different workouts. Like back squatting is a big thing, bench pressing, so on and so forth. You're looking for a fireman, a firefighter, or you know, you want to be strong, but you also want to have a a good cardiovascular system.
Right.
You want to be mobile, you want to be strong, you want to have stability. It's kind of like an all-around. Fighter, same thing, explosiveness. So you got to tailor to what their lifestyle is, at the same time keeping in mind, again, their long-term health.
Okay.
You go ahead.
Oh, sure, go
No,
ahead.
I don't think it's, no, that was it, really.
Well, if I cut you off, I
No,
apologize.
not at all.
So how's foundation training changed your own movements and health?
Foundation training has helped me all around how I move. Definitely in everyday life, from picking up saws at work to picking up laundry, to being more cognizant or conscious of how I move, how I stand, how I sit when I'm driving, or just the ability to keep that tension where it needs to be tensioned. I believe it's helped my health, my physical health overall. I really truly believe, if I haven't, and this is not because it's foundation training what we're doing, I really truly believe that if I didn't have foundation training or had even the basics of foundation training, that my injury rate, the percentage of my injuries would have been elevated. Not only because of the movements that we do, but how it made me think and the education it made me go get myself.
Awesome. So here's the stinger question of the day to get on. How do you personally define wellness?
I forgot about that one. How I define wellness, wellness is being able to speak right. Wellness for me would be doing something that you love to do, a fitness program and a diet program that keeps you in the sports and the activities that you love to do, not make you to be at the top of your level, but just that you can participate in all your life events, whether it be playing with your kids, your job, your activities outside of work, anything that results into longevity of your life that keeps you happy. I guess that would be it, right? Like, I would hate to be 400 pounds and be like, man, I really want to go surfing, but I really, or I want to go rock climbing, right? Yeah. But we'll switch that. Like, what's my health? I want to do that. I want to get that on that board, and that's going to be my health goal.
Nice.
Yep.
So we had a good discussion yesterday, and I think it's something for lifting and those people out there that are looking at the baseline strength program, and you get a lot of different opinions and insights and coaches, and you look at Instagram, there's so many different things out there. But what we got into the topic of was deadlifting.
Oh, yeah.
Conventional or sumo, what's the right call? And so what I wanted to hit on was something as a discussion point really that came up, and what I'll lay out the scenario, which was one of our friends who's a coach was dogmatic that there's only a traditional deadlift. And what that means is that your feet are about hip width apart and you pull from there. Versus sumo, which is when you bring your legs out wider, the toes turn out, think of more of a gorilla lift, hips go back, and you're still hinging and loading. And when we look at those lifts, what I say now is that there was a period of time when I was only traditional because I was trained under that mindset. And then as I started to expand that mindset and got around coaches that looked at my body and molded the lift based on what they were presented with.
Yeah.
And I'd say pigeonholed for a long time in lifting because I had to meet this criteria based on the lift that they wanted versus what my body was going to benefit most from in the movement, which was a sumo, because I've got a long torso and short legs and short arms. By taking that wider stance, it allowed me to hinge in a safer angle. And so it was just a discussion point. I didn't know if there was things that you've heard or wanted to share in regards to femurs for torso. Yeah,
it's always it's a theory, and it's always getting better because someone always comes out with a new way. I think a collective is everything starts at the hip hinge, right? The hips are big, but when it comes to sumo, some people will say that it's just a mobility. You can't do conventional, so that's why they do sumo. Some people say it's a femur length, long femurs, long people. Their body is just not able to get into a conventional, so they go sumo. I don't quote me, but when I was looking at this and researching it, I believe even Dr. Stuart McGill, and do the research. Don't take what I say, and I'm not putting words in his mouth, because I've read a lot over what people have said, have even agreed with the longer torso bodies or longer femur bodies are more built for sumo, and then the shorter femur length and whatnot are typically built for conventional. He has a whole thing on it, and it's
just real quick on those notes is what they're looking at is the angles the body's able to go to based on the length of literally your bones. So when you're getting into good coaches, these are the kind of things they look at.
Yeah, and also, and what I said earlier about the whole how foundation has helped me, not just from the movements that it teaches me, but it makes me dive into more. Like I've learned about the hip socket. Like some people can't lower their body and keep a neutral spine because of how their femur enters their hip and how that socket is located. So a conventional might not be necessary because they're getting too much lumbar rounding because their femur blocks them, and it creates a torque on their hip. So they go sumo. I worked with the guy at the fire department who's a very lanky guy. I came out and I saw him doing conventional deadlifts, elevated. I said, hey, why are you pulling up off of an elevation like that? And he said, I couldn't get down to grab the bar. I said, no, someone like you should be doing sumo. I brought the same story up to a person, and he said, well, it's because he doesn't have the mobility. When this guy does have pretty sufficient mobility as well. But he looked at me as soon as he did. He said, dude, that belt's so much better. That was where I need to be. And then you said a point yesterday that was like, when do you ever truly pull a conventional deadlift on when you're lifting stuff? Really not much. Most people go to a sumo deadlift when they pick up anything. Let's say if you're picking up a bag of laundry, people usually do this wider stance sumo lift over the conventional pull, right? So maybe that's, you practice how you play. That's how you should do it. I don't know. It's always a theory.
My mind has gotten into this thing of what are my methods to protect my spine?
Right.
So sometimes I can't the object's on. I can think of a million scenarios when we were firefighting where I had to get to this weird tight spot inside a car or to wedge and pull somebody out or whatever it was, and all bets were off on the angle, and so what could I do? I could create central stability. I could engage and wrap my lats. I think of stone lifting or lifting an awkward object where you can't hinge the hips back to get a good grip. So learning the different ways of stabilizing the spine, learning different ways to pull and lift. Like if you're, molding, gauging the right exercises for your body, not letting the exercises gauge how you put your body. I got myself into trouble recently using a device where I allowed the device to dictate the movement patterns that I went into, and it wound up biting me. And what I look at, that's why I'm not a huge fan of machines, is that the machine dictates the movement pattern for you, as opposed to like a kettlebell where you're going to go through your ranges, right? When I was in London, one of our chiros, one of our docs, Dr. Ben Caraway, asked me to come in, and I was working with one of his athletes, actors, and was taking him through some FT stuff to gauge what was going to be the best lift for him. And we ultimately determined he didn't need a deadlift for a while, because he didn't have the ranges yet. So we gave him some regressions to work on his ranges of motion, because he was very long. He was actually a younger guy growing into his body, and the juice wasn't worth the squeeze for the deadlift. And we played with trap bar, we played with traditional deadlift. We wound up with a slight elevation, a sumo position, and then we made sure he was able to create stability. We worked a lot of gorilla lifts, but we just went, hey, getting injured is not worth it. His goal was for a roll to put size on. So we're not going to risk hurting him so he can build. There's a lot of other ways to do that. And so I think not being dogmatic of this thing has to happen right now.
Right, and if you can't deadlift, if you guys are out there trying to deadlift and you just find a good coach, film yourself, find a good coach, whether it's an online coach or not, but a legit, not an Instagram coach that's just because he looks the part. Like, find a true coach, man. But go as simple as RDLs, Romanian deadlifts. Start from the top and work down. You can still break, create great hamstring and glute strength, that way. If you can't get to the bottom of a deadlift to start, if you're trying to start, right? RDLs I think are solidly safe, and it's a hinge, and it's just a hinge to just below the knees, and then back up.
Yeah, and I just say, like, I know there's a lot of coaches out there that are going to agree. Some will disagree.
Yeah.
There's many ways to skin the cat, guys. This isn't meant to be gospel, the only way to do it. We're seeing a lot of stuff out there right now saying, forget bracing, but really they're saying bracing, but doing something a little bit different. There's things left out of context, knowing the difference between breathing and bracing, that you can still create central stability without locking the abdominal down. Look at people's backgrounds, pay attention to who's got time and experience. I was actually really surprised recently, a coach that I really respect saying the hinge is overvalued or over. I'm just going, we're hitting a point where people are throwing stuff out there to get attention for social media, and it's really sad. And I'd say find the people you trust, find the people that get results, find people that have experience with injuries, that know biomechanics, that are going to mold based on your goals. Okay, that's a big one.
Find out what works for you. Like, if you don't need a back squat, don't back squat. Like, there's no, that's if you don't have the mobility and you're an office worker, don't back squat. Like, what's the point? What are you trying? There's so many I've switched. I don't back squat anymore. I either front load kettlebell squat or I split squat. Once in a blue moon, I might throw a barbell on my back. Just a small little strength week or two, and that's about it. Just like maybe once or twice a year. But if you can't do it, it's when you want to say in reality, when are you ever going to lift a perfectly weighted bar with ball bearings? I think Mark Ribatoga even said this himself. I think it's in his book, right? And squat away. It's always going to be single. You're going to pick something up and single leg squat it up. You're going to front load squat it up at a wide stance. There's so many multiple ways you can still hit the squat in your quads and your glutes and your hamstrings without throwing a barbell on your back. So if someone's telling you to throw a barbell on your back and it hurts, or it's not right, don't do it anymore.
We love to squat.
Yeah, squatting's good.
Squatting's fun. So, and I tell you guys, if any of this is like, well, you're not sure, listen to the interview with Dr. Brown that we did, Tim Brown, where we had a good discussion about when does weight come into the picture. And he gave us a lot of really good moments. So what I last want to leave and kind of get out of weight is, what advice would you give individuals out there for training, for mindset, for injuries, for life?
Oh, man, I don't know. That's so many. It all depends on you. Don't do drugs. Stay in school. I don't know. Yeah, dude. For do what works for you. Do what is going to help you reach your end goal. If it's not to get ready for the combine, don't train like you're, or if you're not getting paid to deadlift 1,000 pounds, and you're just asking for a really long road of immobility and probably health problems down the road. Do what keeps you active. Do what you love. If it is to lift 1,000 pounds, I guess I can retract my statement and then go lift 1,000 pounds. But just be safe about it. Know what you're getting into and understand the role, and stay educated. Stay educated, my friends.
All right, we'll leave it on that, bro. Thanks for the time.
Yeah,
man.
bud.
Choo.